Today, I'm going to show you how I change steel strings on a 5-string banjo. We're going to look at an actual banjo and you're going to see me do it in real time, but before we do that, I'm going to illustrate how to do it on this handy dandy little fake headstock that I made. And I'm going to show you how I easily crimp the strings around themselves so that they stay nice and in tune. It's real easy. This is how you do it. Welcome to Banjo Quest. All right, here we are with the Banjo Sim 3000. This is a simulated headstock of the average banjo. We have 4 tuning pegs. Each tuning peg has a set of holes. And that's what I'm trying to indicate with these white chenilles. So these white chenilles here tell you the direction that the holes are oriented. And I think this is a big part of changing strings quickly. If you can orient the holes correctly, it kind of helps you hold on to the string and quickly change the strings. So that's a big deal, and I'll be illustrating that today. So we're going to change one string on this side of the headstock and one string on this side of the headstock. The other big thing to think about here is that we're always going into the tuning post hole from the center line of the headstock. That makes these tuners and these tuners sort of mirror images of each other, and you need to account for that as you're changing strings. Don't worry, I will show you exactly what I mean. I have 2 simulated banjo strings, and the colored ends are there to show you which direction is heading to the pot of the banjo. That should already be attached to your tailpiece. So imagine these 2 colored ends heading to the tailpiece of the banjo, and these black ends here are going to go into the holes. They're the loose ends that we will end up trimming. And I color-coded these so that you guys can see how the string overlaps itself and locks on to the tuners. All right, let's get started. Let's go orange first. So we are going to orient this tuner so that we're facing the holes perpendicular to the headstock. And then I'm going to guide the loose end of the string into the holes. And I'm going to make sure I have plenty of slack. I'll bring it to that little winding area there. And remember, this colored end, the orange end, is heading to the pot and is already tied to the tailpiece. So now we've got the string into the post from the center line of the banjo. And now what we do is we take our loose end here and we wrap it back around towards the center line of the banjo again. So you are heading back to the center line, and then we go under the string end that is heading to the banjo pot. And we fold this over, and it will kind of crimp itself because they're wire, so it will stay like that. Even on a real banjo string, you're going to see me do that in a minute. So now what we do is once we've got that crimp happening over the string, we simply wind this side, our bass side strings, we wind those counterclockwise. Whoops. And keep the winding underneath the winding that is occurring with the loose end on the post. And we wind it counterclockwise, bring it up to pitch, and then we trim our end. And what I do here is I take the flat side of my wire trimmers, I put them down on the top of the tuner and trim. And that keeps the loose end even or less than even with the tuner height. That keeps me from jabbing myself or my clothing. So I just put my trimmers on top of the post. That ensures I'm even, clip them off, and I'm good to go without a lot of fuss. All right, that's one string. Let's do another a little bit faster. Okay, I've got another banjo string here. Let's take our loose end. The first thing I'm gonna do is I orient the hole so that it is across the headstock. I go in from the center line of the banjo to this post hole. Then I feed it through, just like that, all the way through. This is this colored end, the blue end is heading to the pot. And then, just like before, I take the loose end here and I pull it back around towards the midline of the banjo, go under the colored part. Under, under, under. And now I crimp it over. And I start my winding clockwise this time. So I wind, 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 and make sure the colored end stays under the spiral wrapping that is occurring on the post as I turn the peg. Okay, I'm happy with that. Up to tune. Take the loose end, put my wire cutters even with the top of the post and snip it, and voila. Your banjo is strung up beautifully. Let's take a look at how this looks on an actual banjo. This is my trusty, lovely banjo, my Ohm Omega, and it needs new strings. Let's go through and change strings 3 and 2 so you can see exactly what's going on. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the strings that are there. And let me show you the pot here. I pull that string through, get rid of it. All right, I take my brand new string and I want to show you what I do here at the tailpiece level so you can see how I handle that. So what I like to do is on the loop end, I like to crimp this loop here. I kind of bend it at a 90-degree angle so it will accommodate the tailpiece without popping off the end of the tailpiece. So right here at this wrap area, I just bend it 90 degrees. I don't put a hard crimp in it, something like that, so it doesn't pop off the tailpiece as readily as it would if it were straight. Just a little trick I do. And now that we have that nice 90-degree bend, we put the string through that tailpiece hole. All tailpieces are a little bit different, and I am pretty much tailpiece agnostic. These ohms are really beautiful and nice. They work really well. So we'll hold it there, and now let's return to the headstock and see how that works. All right, we are back up at the headstock, and the first thing we need to do is make sure that our third string post has a hole that is oriented across the headstock, which I've done. You're not going to be able to see that because there's a little flange here that will block your view. You'll see it emerge as I put the string through the hole. Put it through the hole. You can see that it's running across. And that just helps to hold the string there so I can manipulate it without it slipping back through and slowing me down. Like that. I leave a little bit of slack here, not a lot. And I back this loose end back around towards the midline of the headstock, underneath the string end that's going to the pot. I pull, 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 and I pull it tight, and then I fold it over the string that's there. And now I begin to wind and make sure my end that's going to the pot is going under the windings. Pull that a little bit more so it stays. And I turn, turn, turn. Shouldn't take too many wraps before I get this up to pitch. It's a lot easier to do when I'm not worried about camera angles, by the way. I'm just rough tuning right now. Just to get it reasonably up to pitch, I will do a fine tuning several times once the strings are all on. All right, I take the flat side of my wire cutters and I put them flush to the top of the tuner and I snip. And there we go. We're done with that string. Let's do another one. All right, removing that second string, pulling it back through. I won't show you what I'm doing at the tailpiece now just to save time. Okay, we are through, and orient that so that we're going across and into the hole we go from the center line of the banjo. Remember, everything's opposite on this side of the banjo headstock, so you're going in like that. Now I'm gonna bend that loose end back around towards the midline of the banjo, underneath the string here that's going to the pot. And now I pull up and crimp it around that string, and I begin to tighten it by going clockwise. Sometimes I pull on that loose end just to tighten up that little crimp. All right, we've got it into rough tune. The reason I don't fully tune it up here is because when the banjo is laying down like this, it has different forces on the neck that are being expressed than when you're holding it. So even if I were to get it in perfect tune right now, by the time I picked it back up and put it in my lap in a playing position, it would be not in perfect tune then because of the forces of gravity, and the strings themselves are interacting on the neck in a different way. So I always tune the banjo, fine tune it in my lap in playing position. All right, let's trim that and we are good to go. Now for the fifth string, you're going to do the same thing. Same principle, you're always moving from the center line of the instrument into the tuner and reversing that loop again to double the string back on itself. So just pretend that this peg is just like one of these two pegs. Same idea, just a little higher up on the neck. And that's how you change strings on a banjo. Now, this is just one way to do it. I'm sure there are lots and lots of ways to restring a banjo. This is what works for me, and I hope you got something out of the video. Post a comment and a like below, and I will see you next time on Banjo Quest.